devil. I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V, I'm the D-E-V-I-L. I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I, I'm the D-E, I'm the D-E-V-I-L, the devil.
All righty then. Welcome, one and all, back to the final word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. I'm your boy MattyB on the call. Welcome to our Hump Day, Wednesday night edition, which will actually be our final broadcast of this week. We spoke about it last night. I am on the road to starting very early tomorrow morning. I got to drive to Alabama, so I will not be on the air tomorrow night, but I will be back on Sunday live from Alabama. So we're going to wrap this thing up in style tonight, in style. Joining me in about 10 minutes or so, JP Zapata is going to pop in for about 25 minutes or so. We're going to kind of kick things around, get his take on the current landscape. Maybe ask him some questions about just about things, you know. First time JP will be on the show. First time I've ever had the chance to speak to JP. Looking forward to it. Cannot wait. That's right. So we're going to get him on here in about 10 minutes or so. We're also going to take care of some business that we always do every night here on the program, Your Day in Philadelphia Sports History. The title of our show tonight, or the theme of our program tonight, is Bryce Harper batting second. Question mark, question mark, question mark. We're going to get into that. How I think that's a goddamn disgrace and a travesty of justice, having Bryce Harper bat second in any baseball lineup. Bryce Harper has never been a number two in a lineup, ever. Ever since the baseball gods bestowed him upon us mortals, Bryce Harper has never been a two. Well, so we'll get into some of the baseball things, and we're also going to talk Eagles. I didn't really want to bring up the Eagles tonight, but they keep on bringing me back in. Kevin Padula, they got themselves a new offensive coordinator. They went from within, and they hired their former quarterbacks coach to be the new offensive coordinator. Have not we been down this road before? Have not we seen this accident before? For a team that's looking to run it back, they definitely are keeping it in the mantra of running it way back by taking somebody internal. I'm going to get into why I think they went this route, and honestly, a very quick decision by this football team to make a decision on their offensive coordinator position. Were they interviewing people prior to the Super Bowl when it was imminent that Kellen Moore was going to get hired by the Saints, or when they thought it was imminent? Did they already start the interview process then? If not, they really interviewed the heck out of some people in 2 days. And we'll get into some of the conversation about that. We're going to do our Four Nations check-in, the Flyers. I said the Flyers. Team Flyers. Team USA will face off against Team Canada tomorrow night for the is it the gold medal? Is it the championship trophy? Is it a check? What did they win when they win the Four Nations? But tomorrow night, the rematch between USA and Canada, this time on U.S. soil. What do we do when it comes to the national anthem, folks? Do we take the bigger road? Do we sit there in reverence and pay attention to the Canadian national anthem, or do we let them have it with a dose of their own medicine? I say the latter. We'll get into some of that. We'll also reveal our number 3 line, MattyB's number 3 all-time Flyers line. We did number 2 last night. We did number 1 the other night. We're going to knock out number 3 tonight. The of the night segment, and of course our card review. So a big time busy night here on the program as we wrap up our broadcast week one day early, because I am hitting the road early in the morning and I will not be available tomorrow night to do a show. So got to get it all in while we can. Let's get into now. Let's start. What is it? Let's strap on, strap in, put your feet and hands inside the car all time, and let's go. For your night in Philadelphia sports history, brought to you by the great folks here at It's a Wrap Sports Network, and all they do, this bud's for you. Please give us a like, a subscribe, a share, all those great things. But on this night, we're staying in the realm of obscurity, not a four major sport nugget. Boxing. That's right. We've been talking about boxing a lot on the program. On this night back in 2005, Bernard Hopkins became that first middleweight fighter in boxing history to complete 20 consecutive title defenses, earning a unanimous victory over the European champ Howard Eastman, not Howard Eskin. I'm sorry about that. It just looked like Eskin. It just conjured up an image. It conjured up an image of Bernard Hopkins fighting Howard Eskin. Wow. No, it was not Howard Eskin. It was Howard Eastman. Hopkins at 40 at the time accomplished defeat at an age when most fighters are long retired. He finally hung the gloves up for good in 2016 at age 52. So Bernard Hopkins fighting competitively and effectively all the way up to the age of 52, which I did not know he was doing. Matter of fact, I missed the 2005 thing too. I thought he went away long before that, but not the case. Bernard Hopkins fought competitively up to 52, and tonight in 2005, he successfully defended his title for a 20th straight time against European champion Howard Eastman, not Howard Eskin. It looks like Eskin. Sorry, and maybe a little Freudian slip there, but there you go. There's your night in Philadelphia sports history. As I said, brought to you by the good folk here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Let's get into our night. Let's start off with the Eagles because we have to. They threw me a curveball. I wasn't going to talk Eagles tonight, but let's get into the Eagles. Kevin Padula, now the new offensive coordinator, the second time in 3 years that the Eagles decided to hire a former offensive coach, a quarterback coach, to take over the position. And I want to. Is this in direct response to trying to keep Jalen Hurts under control? And maybe that's not the right word. Keep him happy? I mean, listen, for this part of it all, Jalen Hurts, poor guy, has not had any kind of continuity when it comes to an offensive coordinator. But I think, one time in the last 8 years? And that was, 2 years with Steichen? And that was really it? He's had problems keeping some continuity at the pro level with offensive coordinators, and it's a revolving door. Is this, by putting Padula in this position, is it to try to make him comfortable as he possibly can? Or is Kevin Padula the best man for this job? And I think there's a balance between these two questions. You cannot underestimate or understate the Jalen Hurts effect here. And Jalen needs, and everybody needs it, and not just Jalen Hurts. And I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts guy in the world, but come on, man. You keep throwing this guy curveballs by giving him offensive coordinator du jours year by year. A little setback, a little regression is to be expected. But on the other hand of that, would Tom Brady really care if he had different offensive coordinators every single season? Would Pat Mahomes really give a damn if he had different offensive coordinators every season? Would Joe Montana? I can go down the list of all the great elite quarterbacks in NFL history, and they would probably say, no, we don't really care. But apparently it does matter to Jalen Hurts, and I'm not knocking him for that. It's not a negative component to his game. But once again, it kind of feeds into the whole that he's not elite story, but that's a story for another day. This is what the Eagles have decided to do. And does this fit the mantra of trying to run it back or trying to be competitive for a dynasty? It definitely fits the mantra of running it back, because God knows you can't run it any further back than by promoting from within. Now, does it also signal what the Eagles are going to be like in 2025? Does it signal that they are once again going to rely on the feet, knees, and legs of Saquon Barkley to carry them to victory? And is that a misplaced decision? Do they really think that Saquon's going to rush for 2,500 yards and not get hurt and have the same prototypical season that he did this year? I'm not saying that he won't, but is that a smart thing to put your eggs in the basket? And I think they're very interesting questions, both of them. Saquon Barkley is definitely a bell cow, and it completely destroys my narrative of trying to trade Saquon for a Herschel Walker type trade, because if they're going to essentially promote from within, get a guy that's been in the system, a guy that's seen the system, a guy that's dealt with the system, a guy that knows the system, and pretty much just continue it on with the Moradula playbook next year, not the Moriani playbook, but the Moradula playbook. And that's the third point here. How much more now does this put back on Nick Sirianni's plate in terms of play calling? So this decision of an inside replacement to Kellen Moore could have lasting ramifications throughout the 2025 season, much like it did in 2023 when Brian Johnson failed miserably as the offensive coordinator. And I want to know from Eagles Nation, I want to know from the homers, I want to know from the non-homers, is this the right thing to do? Is this decision to run it back internally and not go look for some outside help, is it the right thing to do? And if it is, why is it? Is it to calm the savage breast of your elite quarterback, to try to once again put him in a position where he's spoon-fed a familiar system? Or is this maybe lack of preparedness? Did they not expect this to have to happen? Because again, 2 days of interviewing and we got ourselves a new offensive coordinator. Did Frank Reich even step into the city limits? Did any of them come into town, or did they do their stuff over Zoom? Very interesting questions I have for the whole thing here. It smacks very suspicious. And the bottom line is it the right decision for the Eagles? On paper, I guess with Jalen Hurts or with how he thinks of things, maybe this is the right decision because he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. But is he tipping his hand in February to the NFL in 2025 about what kind of offense the Eagles are going to run next year? They're going to run an offense with an offensive coordinator that's never called plays before. Is that what the defending Super Bowl champions need? I said this in the very beginning when it was imminent that Kellen Moore was leaving. I thought it was important that the Eagles look for a replacement outside of the organization because the Eagles are going to be the hunted now, not the hunter. And they're going to have to change things up. They're going to have to keep the league guessing about them offensively. Now, I guess you could also look at your elite quarterback, air quotes, Jalen Hurts. You can look there and say that he doesn't need to be spoon-fed an offense, that he can run any type of offense that's there. Now, apparently that's been a problem, though, for him over his career. And will it be a problem in 2025? So questions abound by this new addition of the new offensive coordinator for the Eagles that we'll probably have to get into over the course of the next few weeks. But right now on the program, just popped on in, I want to bring out for the first time ever on this show, and the first time I've ever actually spoke to this guy face-to-face. Well, kind of face-to-face. We're not really face-to-face. We're camera-to-face. Mr. JP, let me bring him in here. Godly, man. JP Zapata. JP, what is up? Welcome to the program. Thank you for cutting some time off for me tonight. And how you been?
I've been good, man. Thank you for having me on, man. It's a pleasure hopping on, especially this time of the year. We just won the freaking Super Bowl. I don't know if you heard, but it's exciting in Philly.
Yeah, I've heard. And, you know, I one of my biggest problems, and I come out as a Debbie Downer, and I don't know how much you know about me, JP. I'm sure we'll learn more about each other throughout the course of this session here. Wait. But I'm all about the Super Bowl. It's a great moment. It's, you know, you don't necessarily have, these are not guaranteed. And this is our second in 8 years or 7 years, depending on how you're doing math. And there's nothing you can take away from that. But one of the problems, not more than 24 hours after they won the Super Bowl, I'm already starting to hear the D word. I'm already starting to hear about how Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in Eagle history, how Nick Sirianni is the best coach in Eagle history, how Howie Roseman should bypass everything right now and just go up to Canton, Ohio and stand in the front of the Hall of Fame and wait for his entry, which maybe that might be the most true statement of it all because he's won 2 Super Bowls now. But let me ask you this, JP, about the Eagles in their Super Bowl. A fantastic storybook season. Is this a dynasty in the making?
Wow, that's a loaded question, right? Like, did anyone think that the Kansas City Chiefs would be on their way back in 2019? Would they be on their way to winning all those championships? It's going to be tough, but I definitely think that the Eagles have the crux to be that quote unquote dynasty. When you think about what's already in place here, obviously you got the quarterback Jalen Hurts, you have the coach Nick Sirianni, and so far, despite all the reports before this season even started, do they even like each other? Well, they liked each other enough to go on a run and win the Super Bowl. But really, like I always say this, like if you're all the dynasties you look in NFL history, there's always been the front office presence, there's always been the head coach presence, and there's always been that franchise quarterback. And I think the Eagles have all three of those facets there. The tricky part is going to be continuing to replenish this team. Obviously, Jalen Hurts' contract's going to be kicking in soon. And there's a lot of players right now heading into next year who's coming back, right? Like there's some big names that helped us win a Super Bowl that are in free agency. So it's going to be tough, but I think the Eagles have the crux to be on that dynasty. But I'm listen, you talked about it. I'm the same way. Like I like to take one step at a time, right? Won the Super Bowl. Let's head into next year. I'm curious what this NFC is going to look like. Obviously, the Commanders are definitely a little wearisome for me, but the crux are here, Matt. The crux are here.
Yeah, I agree with you, JP. And then of course you also got to factor in now we're the hunted, not the hunter, and that's different. That's a different mindset, a different approach. But I do want to ask you this about the fantastic season that they had.
Mm-hmm.
The level that the defense played, which I think is really lost in all this to a certain extent. I know there's proper dues being given. One aspect of the defense that completely blew my mind was heading into week 9, the defense had forced 7 turnovers. After that, they forced 23 turnovers from week 10 up until the end of the Super Bowl. I don't think that's getting enough attention. And I'm not saying that that's a fluke or luck. No, that's technique, that's coaching, that's tackling, that's great pass coverage, that's all those things, and that's great pressure on the quarterback. That's great defense, and I give them that. But is it something that the regular Eagle fan out there can actually hitch their star to and say, you know what, I can expect the Eagle defense to play at the 2024 level in 2025, and then to boot, I can expect Saquon Barkley to rush for 2,500 yards in 2025 and not get hurt and have another great season? Or am I concerned that the Eagle offense was so one-layered with Saquon Barkley? Listen, the offense went or did not go unless Saquon Barkley took them. You had a quarterback, you mentioned your franchise quarterback. He threw, I think, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It was like 361 pass attempts this season. Only 48 of them were to the middle of the field.
Yeah.
That is not what you would call an elite offense. That is a very basic vanilla down the sidelines, YOLO, 50-50, whatever. Can the regular Eagle fan who's having problems kind of wrapping his head around, can the Eagles defense play like this? And can Saquon Barkley do this again? And can Jalen Hurts be the focal point of an offense that he obviously was taken out of the spotlight after week 4 last year?
You know, it's fun. Let's start with the defense, because for me, the beginning of the year, like even after like the Atlanta game, and especially after the Tampa game, well, Tampa game was a little bit different because there was a bunch of injuries. But like, I just thought to myself, like, is this defense going to be good enough for us to make any type of run in the playoffs? Because I feel like the offense, they would turn it around at some point. You have Saquon Barkley, and you kind of saw the crux of that. But the defense was really what concerned me. Now, in this day and age, like I always say, like, you know, your 2013 Seahawks, your 2000 Ravens, your 85 Bears, like those shutdown defenses don't exist anymore. In today's day and age, your good defenses, what they do is they pressure the quarterback and they get those turnovers. And that's a main reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And it's crazy because BG goes down. That was a major moment in the season. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how are we going to get the edge rush? Like, is Huff all of a sudden going to turn it up? Like, how are we going to get some pressure here? And, dude, freaking Nolan Smith stepped up in a humongous way. He took some major steps. You had Jalix Hunt. And now, granted, he only had, 15 snaps a game. But he definitely gave enough production for what we needed. So, listen, we have on defense, like I mentioned before, you're going to have some major decisions to make on that side of the football. But it's still really young. Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, like these are all still young pieces, and that's what you're going to build around. And of course, Howie Roseman, hopefully he's able to build around that. Now on offense, though, listen, every year is different. You can't go into next year trying to be the same offense. That's what killed them in 2023. And eventually it got way too predictable. So every year you have to kind of throw a little bit of a wrinkle. I agree with you. And I said this throughout the season. I love the fact that we had Saquon Barkley, and Barkley was essentially winning us a whole bunch of games off 60-yard plus runs. But at some point, Jalen's going to have to make some big throws. And Jalen did make some big throws. In that Super Bowl, he made some pretty big throws, and even in the NFC Championship game as well. But at some point, Saquon Barkley's not going to be in Jalen Hurts' career for the rest of his career, right? So that's something that has to get figured out. And it's not like you don't have the weapons here. You don't have the offensive line here. So I would like to see the offense be a little more prolific on the passing game. Obviously, balance is great, especially come playoff time. But you want to be able to beat teams with that pass game because you can.
Now let's talk about the Eagles' decision today to hire Kevin Patullo to be the new offensive coordinator. And I want to get your take on this. My take, honestly, is this in my opinion, this is a move to try to keep things as level, as comfortable as without kind of disruption for Jalen Hurts. And again, I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts guy, but the guy has not had continuity with an offensive coordinator forever. And one Steichen for 2 years, and that's about the best he's ever had. And that's hard to ask of any quarterback to do. Mm-hmm. But do you think that this decision to hire Patullo or elevate him from within was, listen, we're gonna keep this thing kind of as level as we possibly can for you. And on the other hand of that, is that the right thing? Because you just mentioned you got to adjust, you got to change things. The NFL is going to be looking at certain things. Like it or not, the Chiefs did one positive thing in the Super Bowl, and that was shut down Saquon Barkley. They actually did the first team to do that all year. They just could not stop turning the football over, which gave the Eagles short fields and all that. But more and more teams might pick up on that. And is this a move to kind of keep sort of continuity there?
Yeah, I definitely think that is so. I don't know how much I agree or disagree with it, because I think at the end of the day, at least I'm just focusing on 2025. I mean, the offense is pretty much going to be intact. So it's really not rocket science calling plays for this offense. And Matt, I'll ask you, did Kellen Moore impress you at all last year?
No, and this is why I don't think he impressed me, because this was rumblings and grumblings coming out of camp in the summer that Jalen Hurts was having problems picking up the playbook with the motions and the quick hitters and slants. He doesn't do those well. And I had one person come on this show and tell me it was because Jalen Hurts is having problems seeing over the line of scrimmage. I'm not gonna get into that, but I honestly think at week 4, when they were 2-2, and then you got to go back into 23 as well, from that 49er game in 23 up to the week 4 game against Tampa, the Eagles were 3-8 under Jalen Hurts. And that offensive first, that pass first wasn't working. I think they scrapped it and went to Saquon because they'd seen enough. For whatever reason, he wasn't figuring out the playbook. We're going to create the Moriani playbook now, where it's Kellen Moore and Sirianni as a blend of plays that he can run to hopefully be more successful and, of course, go more run heavy.
Yeah, it's interesting. So why didn't this move happen early? Why didn't this happen before Brian Johnson? It's just I'm just curious why he's been here as a passing, and not many NFL teams have a passing coordinator per se. Yeah. And so it is going to be interesting to see kind of how Kevin Patullo handles the reins here. Again, it's so hard to kind of screw this up, and how this offense is going to work, but you bring up a good point, because I need to see the evolution of Jalen Hurts as a passer. I know he can win games, and it's great, and I know he's super dangerous with his legs as well. But at some point, I want Jalen Hurts to be here 10 plus years, right? You want that franchise quarterback here for 10 plus years. You can't continue to just run the ball. Kevin Patullo, and then one thing I will say too, because I heard this all throughout social media, is oh, well, you look what happened when you had continuity with Brian Johnson. The thing is Brian Johnson did not have experience play calling in the NFL. It's a whole different ballgame. Kevin Patullo's been here for a while, but he worked closely with Nick Sirianni down in Indy when they were together. Right. So I feel better with Patullo than I did with Brian Johnson. Let's be real. It's an unknown. We don't know anything about Kevin Patullo. We don't even know exactly what his contributions were to the offense on a week-to-week basis throughout the season. So it's a nothing burger for me. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I probably would have gone outside of the organization, considering the fact that he went outside the organization for Kellen Moore, and that worked out pretty well. But Kevin Patullo, I can't be mad at it.
I listen, you're right, and time will tell. But listen, when you look at this, JP, when you look at this thing right here,
Yes, sir.
especially this road schedule, I don't wish this on my worst enemy. And what a way to get baptized into the NFL as an offensive coordinator, where you got to go on the road to KC, Buffalo, Green Bay, Minnesota, LA, and Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
so
man.
It's going to be definitely
challenges, man.
It's going to be tough.
Hopefully, Buffalo's not in December, man.
Yeah, so so do I. But I do hope that Detroit game is week 1 at home.
Oh, please!
I'm all in favor of that. Let's switch gears. I know you're multilingual here. I want to read you a quote from a Phillies outfielder today down in spring training. And I quote, and I want you to I want to see if you can tell me who this is.
Okay.
I quote, "I do think we have less pressure as a team this year, especially with everything the media said about us when we lost last year, and we really didn't go out and make any crazy changes. So if we lose, you guys look smart, which is dope, right? And then if we win, it's kind of like a happy surprise. It's kind of freeing place to play baseball. You know what I mean?" End of quote. Do you know who that might be?
It's funny because I want to say Rhys Hoskins, but obviously it wasn't. That sounds a lot like Rhys Hoskins. Something he would say. I'll go JT Realmuto.
Nick Castellanos made that quote today down in spring training. What has he lost his mind, JP Zapata? A freeing place in Philadelphia if they start losing. Wow. Has he not been here before? JP, I want to get your take on the way the Phillies walked off the field at the end of 2024 and did minimal. I mean, literally, they replaced A with A, B with B, C with C. Kepler and Hayes are the same person. They brought in Jose Luzardo, who's coming off injury issues. Jordan Romano, who's coming off injury issues. Max Kepler, who's coming off injury. I mean, we can go down the line. Joe Ross, who's coming off injury issues. What is this? First of all, was this the type of offseason you thought the Phillies were going to have?
No, not at all. And look, I think the Phillies offseason was very simple for me, and it was just trying to find a way to just have some flexibility with the lineup. Like the mashing and bashing, like it's been proven. Like you can't go in there every single playoffs trying to hit for the home run. I mean, the fact that, and I'll be honest with you, Matt, the Mets series messed me up bad. I didn't want to talk baseball for like 2-3 months. Because, dude, like we should have beaten that team, and the worst part about it is that it was the stinking Mets, the team that we hate the most in baseball. Like you should have not lost that series, and so, and I mean it's obvious the way you kind of lost it. I mean the bats were freaking cold, and so like you had your starters, you had your bullpen trying to catch up, and it was a recipe for freaking disaster. So to me, the blueprint was very simple: go try to find someone else who can freaking lead off. Trey Turner, it doesn't seem like he could be that guy. I would like to, at least would like to try to see if it could happen. Absolutely.
Something change, and something needs to change. The whole lineup needs to change. And if they're not going to go external, they got to do it internal.
And that's really it. I mean, this year it's gonna suck because I'm not gonna say like they're Sixers yet, but when imagine there's like a late June loss, right? And it's like to the Padres, right? Every loss is going to be heightened, and every win is going to be like, okay, whatever, we'll see in the playoffs. Like the Phillies cannot win in the regular season. Unfortunately, we've gotten to the point now where it is a little bit like the Sixers, where you're going to watch all 162, and you're going to think, is it playoff time yet? All right, I don't care. Is it playoff time yet? Because like we've seen this. Like this team's made the World Series. Team's made NLDS. Team has won a division. Like they've done everything but win the freaking World Series. And so, unfortunately, it's wait and see for a lot of Phillies fans, and I'm the same way.
Now, last year, 40-18 from the start of the season to about June 1st, and then 55-49 the rest of the way. Another two key stats I want to bring up about the Phillies last year is prior to June 1st, or I should say the first half of the season, which is the first 81 games, Phillies batted .277 with runners in scoring position, which is pretty stout. It's above MLB minimum. In the second half, they batted .255, which is 20 points lower. The other stat is home runs. The Phillies pitching gave up 64 home runs in the first 81 games. They gave up 118 in the second half of the season. So that's incredibly off balance. One of the things that I keep hearing people tell me is how stout the Phillies, or how locked in the Phillies pitching is heading to 2025. I'm having a problem wrapping my head around that because after I get past Nola or Wheeler and Nola, I see a bunch of question marks. I see potential, but I don't see nothing locked in at 3, 4, and 5.
I mean, Suarez, it's really the injury, but you would hope in the contract year he would freaking show out. You talked about Jesus Luzardo, also injuries. Christopher Sanchez is interesting because it was a great year. All-star.
Can you repeat that?
Exactly. And then down the line, we're hearing we're going to get Andrew Painter, and it's like,
well, then who's the 5th starter coming out of camp? That's the question. Is it Walker? Is it Ross? I mean, is it Luzardo? Who is it up for grabs? Does Tyler Phillips have a chance to win that? Does Mick Abel come out of nowhere and win the 5th position in the starting rotation? Who is my number? And a locked-in pitching staff, who is the 5th starter?
I would assume it would be Luzardo, right? He just arrived. Obviously, he talked about the injuries, but I would assume it would be him. But they have a couple lefties now.
Yeah, they do. Bullpen, we're going to go into 2025 with this nonsensical bullpen by committee or closer by committee. Let's be specific.
I hate that, man.
Gone is Hoffman. Gone is Estevez. Gone is Dominguez. Here is Romano. Here is Alvarado. And this next pitcher, to me, I think holds the secret to the bullpen in 2025. Orion Kerkering, honestly, to me, it holds the secret to the entire bullpen because he's got closer stuff. He has that velocity. He's got the movement. He's got everything working for him. He just needs a chance. And JP, I don't know where you stand on this, but can the Phillies ever win a World Series without a traditional rolled bullpen?
Dude, we're gonna have to wait and see. But to me, I'd be fine with the bullpen. But like what you just said, I need that solidified closer, man. It's just something and it's a mentality. Even in the dugout, they feel it. When you have that, it's the 9th inning. You're going for the win. You have that closer coming out. You know who it is. It makes a huge difference here. Bullpen is fine. I overall, I think the bullpen will be fine. But it's just that you need that freaking closer, man. You need that guy's going to close out the games.
There's not one. I mean, pitchers in baseball or baseball players in general are creatures of habit. Pitchers in baseball are uber creatures of habit. So they definitely need to know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. I agree. Which leads me to the final point of the Phillies before we move on to the orange and black. Rob Thompson. Does Rob Thompson survive? For Rob Thompson's sake, do the Phillies need to get off to another 2024 start, or could Rob Thompson survive a Joe Girardi 2022 start to the season? Could he survive that? And more importantly, could we survive that with him?
It's going to be interesting because I don't think we can. I don't think we will survive that. I mean, every single lineup card, this fan base is ready to rip them apart. It doesn't matter who we're playing. It's a tough season. It's a tough season for Rob Thompson, and unfortunately, for me, it's World Series or bust. And if they can't do it, then he's got to go. I think Rob Thompson is fine. I think he does get killed a lot here. I think last year, dude, they imploded on themselves, and at some point, personally, me, at some point, it goes beyond the manager. At some point, you need to pick up your big boy pants and go out there and go play some baseball and stop swinging at every freaking pitch that gets thrown at you. And so, unfortunately, this is the nature of the business. If you're not going to win, especially a team like this that's done a lot over the past couple of years, he's unfortunately has to win it all. And that's just a tough spot to put him in. But hey, Nick Sirianni had to win it all too, and he did it.
It was a tough spot to put him in, and you're right. And Sirianni had one foot in the banana peel, and the rest of Philadelphia pushing him off the cliff. I mean, he was done, and he pulled himself back. You're right. Never say never, I guess. But all right, I didn't even go into Alec Bohm. I didn't get into Kyle Schwarber. I didn't get into that. We could be here all night talking those things. I just wanted to hit on the top ones. Let's transition out of hockey. Flyers are in their all-star break of the Four Nations tournament. By the way, kudos to the NHL. This has been an outstanding,
it's been amazing
pre-Olympic type tournament. Of course, tomorrow night in Boston, USA versus Canada. JP, are you pro boo the Canadian national anthem to kind of give a turnaround as fair play, or are you taking the bigger man road on this?
I let the talking go on the ice, man. I'm not a big booer of any national anthem. I like to show respect to all the national anthems out there. But now I think personally, this is kind of what added to it. And it's funny because I made a TikTok yesterday about the state of the All-Star game, because it's funny, you look over the weekend, This goes up against the NBA All-Star game.
Joke.
And Matt, this face-off has been pure theater, bro.
Yep.
And then you had the freaking NBA All-Star game, which was literally the Disney Channel. You had the Disney Channel going up against HBO over the weekend. And this has been awesome, man. And I would love for the NHL to kind of do this every year, honestly. Like, just do this like every year instead of the NHL All-Star game. I just don't know how it would happen, but like there's real storylines here. There's actual bitterness going on here. And so it's been so much fun to watch. And especially like, look, let's be honest with one another. Like I know we live in Philadelphia and hockey is still a pretty big thing here, but you look nationwide, hockey is dying. So this definitely helped it. And I listen, anything to help hockey, man, I'm all for it. I want some more of this. Yeah,
when I'm watching Saturday night that game against USA Canada, I'm watching Connor McDavid get his bell rung over by the boards. I'm like, man, they're not messing around. And then not to mention the 3 fights 9 seconds in, definitely reminiscent of the '96 World Cup of Hockey. Game 1 at the Core State Center,
dude.
Chris in that building back in the day. But yeah, no, it's been fun. But the Flyers will resume play on Saturday. I don't know if people are happy about that, but we did our midseason check-in show last night here on the network. We do a Flyers post-game show, so we kind of recapped a little bit. I guess, JP, the question is, what are you looking for from the Flyers for the rest of the season? What would be for you? Like, for example, I know my point of view is we've done a pretty good job, and Danny B, and I'm pro Farabee, pro Frost trade. I get rid of those contracts, get rid of the money. The Flyers have improved their cap standing in the NHL. They were 22nd. Now they're up to 14. They could potentially move and add about 15 more million to the cap space because Cal Peterson, who's getting paid $5 million. Cal Peterson's getting paid $5 million to sit down in Lehigh Valley. I've made some my entire life path was wrong. I should have went this way. But anyway, I'm pro getting rid of some more Bristow, Lawton, and let's move as many people out as we can. Let's get more assets. We got 7 draft picks in the first 2 rounds, 3 potential first-round picks, 4 second-round picks, I think 12 overall in the draft. What's JP's overall? What are you looking for the Flyers for the rest of the season?
I want to see just a continue fight. I think that, look, I know right now they're like last in the Metro, but if you kind of look at the standings, it's hockey. It's hockey standings. Hockey standings, no matter what, are always super close on good years, right? On good years, of course. So, like, I just want to see these, especially a lot of it's kids now, right? Like, most of the roster is mostly kids. I want to see these kids fight. And I still think that this team can still fight for a playoff. So I don't know if they can make it, but they could still be in that fight there. I think they had similar talent last year. And look, they were on the doorstep of making the playoffs there. Again, I don't think this team will make the playoffs, but it's all about the long road ahead. And I always listen, I'm a 5-5 Philly sports fan. I'm always going to cross sports. And this rebuild, I'm always going to compare to the Sixers trust the process rebuild. And the reason why I compare is because obviously what the process wasn't great because we're trying to just get out of the second round of the playoffs. And I think a big part of the reason why we haven't been able to get out of that is if you look at that process, Hinkie and then Colangelo's idea of just putting at the time D-League, G-League players and just free agent rookies and just a bunch of rookies with no clear leadership besides Brett Brown. It's not a recipe for success. What they have now is you have a mix of veteran players with some young kids who are hungry and want to play. On top of that, you have Tortorella, Torts was the perfect person for this role right here, trying to create the culture within the Flyers. It's been dead for almost a decade now. And so I want to continue seeing that Flyers fight and just continue building that presence and that culture that we keep talking about. I did like the Farabee and Frost trade. I just didn't think that those guys had a future role. We gave them more than enough opportunities to solidify a role within this organization for the future. They just weren't doing it. You talked about the draft picks. I absolutely love that. One thing I will say, Matt, I think that this team needs a young center to go along with Meach Kaufman. And I know Jet is coming up soon, but I want more of a solidified young star up and coming. I would like to see some of these draft picks used on a trade piece for that center. That's the only thing I would say. But overall, they're building young talent, and that's what you want to do in a good rebuild.
So I think Jet was a little bit of a reach at 13. I think he was a little bit of a reach. I had Jet around the top part of the second round. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I understand what attracted Danny B to him: the speed, the hands, the quickness, and it will benefit. But you mentioned Tortorella. I agree. I mean, he's gotten every ounce of talent these kids could possibly have. If there was a coach that needed to, if the team needed this organization needed to see what players had, he was the right guy to bring it out of them. They definitely made the right decision. As far as the process goes, listen, I mean, I think the process is twofold. I understand the reasoning behind it. You want to get high draft picks, you want to gain assets. It was what you do with those assets and how you draft and whether you hit or miss. Yeah. It's a whole other animal, and you can't control that. In the NHL, you can't build other than through the draft. You really can't. It's just impossible. I mean, you could maybe get lucky on a trade every now and again, but you're not getting a Leclerc for a Recchi every day of the week. It just doesn't happen. And you might get lucky once or twice. The Flyers have seen they already use that. So you got to build from within and build that draft. And that's really kind of what's been hindering the Flyers. They just don't have those assets, or they don't have the talent right now, whether it's not being developed properly, which I don't think it is. I think Laffy does a great job down there in Lehigh Valley. I think he's got a great staff. I've actually covered them. They're good kids, good people. But it's just the talent, and it comes down to talent. You mentioned young center. How can an organization have no top-line center talent? How does that happen? Then that's a deeper problem than just development. That's a deeper problem. But you're right. That needs to be resolved.
We thought we had Nolan Patrick. We thought that was going to be our.
That's what I'm saying, and that's how we had no talents. We were wrong with assessing players, and you know, it is what it is at this point. So, but they got to fix that. They need a top D guy. They need that guy. I know Cam York. I'm a big Cam York guy. Not the greatest year for Cam. He steps backwards, especially defensively. Man. But I still think he's the love child of Mark Howell and Chemo Tiemann, and I really do. And I think he's going to develop into that type of leader at some point throughout his career and spend his entire career in Philadelphia and be very productive.
And Sanheim's looking good for Canada in this face-off.
Yeah, well, he can look good all he wants in Canada. Just get him the hell out of here. I've had enough of Travis Sanheim. I've had enough of Ristolainen. I've had enough of a lot of the Igor Zamula. What's he doing? Still playing for this team?
I agree.
That's been. I mean, give Emil Andre the same type of shot you gave Igor Zamula, and I think he'll stick better than Zamula. They're very quick to yank Andre up and down, but they leave Zamula in there. Reverse that. I don't know if Zamula probably doesn't have any more left. I don't care. Let him go through waivers. If he goes, he goes. But give it go. Give it to Emil Andre. I'd rather have him be my defenseman. The rest of the season. So.
Yeah, he's definitely better, especially in the offensive zone too.
Last thing about the Flyers, let's talk about the most important position on the ice, which, of course, is between the pipes. The Flyers have not seemed to have been able to square away a goalie since about 1985, which was Pelle Lindbergh. It's been may he rest in peace. May he rest in peace. It's been an adventure ever since then. We've had close, should have been, could have been, not quite. Of course, now we're back down to square one with the Carter Hart stuff. Sam Ersson is now in position. Interesting case study here with Ersson. He does at this particular moment in time give the Flyers the best chance to win when he's in there. The problem is long-term, JP, is Sam Ersson a Stanley Cup winning goaltender?
Yes, in a way. In a way. I think like I've gotten to the point with Ersson that I think Ersson's ceiling is as a tandem. I don't think he's a 1A. I think he's more like a 1B. I think if you match him with a really good goalie, I think I'd be more than excited with him as my second option there. And listen, that's how hockey is these days. You need a solid number two there to back up your top guy. But no, I mean, between the injuries and just kind of the inconsistencies, I just think that at this point in Ersson's career, he's a tandem type of goalie. And listen, he's been playing really well with Sweden. Was it against Team USA? He looked really well. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't seen it from him. And it's what now, like third year essentially for Ersson. This is like the first full year and really nothing out of the ordinary from Ersson. So I think at this point he's just a tandem guy, man. But yeah, I think he could be a Stanley Cup winning goalie, but maybe as a tandem.
I'm sure somebody a long time ago had the same conversation about Bob Roski too.
Yeah.
So, and it was probably the same answer. Well, I don't know, maybe he could be, but yeah, I agree. I do think the Flyers do have the right goalie somewhere in the organization. I think between Urson, Kovasov, I think Fedotov is, I don't like him at all.
Yeah.
Zarajin, who's out there in the KHL. I think Bjornsson up there in that with Brandon Weekings.
Yep.
I think these two individuals also are going to provide some. I would give the Flyer goaltending situation a couple more years to marinate before I start looking for some help. Maybe you go and get a veteran to sign in the offseason to be a backup, but I kind of like the prospects right now, but we don't need prospects. We need goaltenders, and let's hopefully these kids can get on the fast track soon.
Yes, please.
All right, man. Listen, I told you 25 minutes to a half hour. About a half hour, a little over a half hour, JP. I want to thank you for coming on. But before you go, let the people know where they can find you at and what you've been up to these days, man.
Yeah, man, definitely check me out on Twitter at Barcelona Philly. I have the handle right there. Right now, just mainly focusing on TikTok. It's just an easy outlet for me to kind of talk about what I want to talk about with Philly sports. I've been repurposing them for YouTube. I'm not sure what's next for me. Just kind of been laying low, trying to figure out what to do with life now, post PHLY days. But just really thankful for everyone showing some love, even if it's on TikTok or Twitter, whatever it may be. I'll always be around. Philly sports is something that I can never kind of steer away from. But I appreciate you, Matt, for having me on. It's truly a pleasure and honor coming on here, man. Anytime I get to talk some Philly sports, I'm always down to do that. But yeah, we'll definitely catch up soon, Matt.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come back on. Hey, listen, man, don't give up the fight, JP. Don't give up the fight because things are changing. You know it. Terrestrial radio is dead. What's happening on the internet now and YouTube and all these platforms is the future. And it don't take much to get this thing going. Takes a God like me. So don't give up the fight, brother. Listen, I appreciate it. And you are welcome back anytime.
I appreciate that, man. We'll catch up soon, man.
All right. JP Zapata joining me here on the program. That was really good, man. I thought that was going to get combative. Thank God. Last time I talked to someone from PHLY, it didn't work out too well. Friggin' Gargano. That was fun. All right. So we pretty much talked all that we were going to talk tonight. I did more than I wanted to. So we do have some segments I want to get into before we end the show. That was awesome, man. I want to thank JP for coming on. Let's get into the of the night segment before we do my all-time flyer roster. So let's do some of the night segment here on the program. Yep, we're back with the of the night segment. This is part of the show where we talk about a Flyers prospect, a Phillies prospect, a Flyers potential draft target, a Phillies potential draft target, and a spotlight player either from the Flyers or the Phillies. If you've noticed over the last few weeks or few days, we've been plussing up our numbers to try to knock out some players as we're falling behind, and we're going to continue with that mantra tonight. Let's go into hockey. We're going to talk Flyers prospect tonight. We've talked about most of them, but we still have a few left, and Massimino Rizzo is one of those. Massimino was one of those players that Danny B really coveted and was trying to get him here for a couple seasons. Finally pulled it off last year. He is currently with the Phantoms in the AHL. He's 5'11", 174-pound center. Not digging that. Obviously, I don't understand why we covet a player who's 5'11" and 174 pounds and he's playing center. Rizzo beats defenders off the rush. He is skilled stick handler who is tough to move off the puck, especially when he accelerates. He is 1 year removed from his time at the University of Denver, playing in that national powerhouse program, and he's finding his way through the ranks of professional hockey right now. So far, through 32 games with the Phantoms, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points, and a +1, which is positive. I mean, I'm not gonna crap on his parade for that. I don't like I don't like his frame. I think he's a little on the lighter side. He needs to kind of continue to grow up a little bit. Danny B, I think Danny B pictures like Massimino as himself. I think he's got some sort of like father-son thing going on here. But there you have it. Tonight's Flyer prospect, Massimino Rizzo of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. and formerly of the University of Denver. So there you go, man. Again, I'm not big on him. I don't really understand why Danny B was so big on him, but we'll see. Barbara, where you been? I just saw Harper, Nola both missed full squad workouts because of food poisoning. Those guys must be kind of weird. It's Florida. The weather's turning. Things are being left out, and I don't know, Barbara. That's weird. At least it's happening in Florida and in February, not in Philly in July. We can take some solace in that. But there you go. All right, so let's move on to our second half of our of the night segment. We're going to stay with the Phillies, and we're going to spotlight yet another player of the 2025 Phillies, and it's a newbie. That's right, man. Max Kepler, the right fielder, will join the Phillies, played in Minnesota last year. I think I have a lot to say about Max Kepler as I did about David Dahl last year. I said, if this was the 2015 version of David Dahl, I'd be all in. Just like if this was the 2019 version of Max Kepler, I'd be all in, but it's not. Last season for the Twins, 105 games, batted .253, 8 homers and 42 RBIs. Missed time early and late due to some injury issues, so it was a tough go for him for most of the season. He's part of the MASH triage unit of the Phillies in 2025. He is the Austin Hayes doppelganger, right? He's basically the same type of player, maybe a little older, and that might be he's actually maybe a little worse than Austin Hayes. But he's going to be asked to play probably the bulk of his time out in right field. And how much does he have to give the Phillies in 2025? And where do we put him in the lineup? I never even got into the damn theme of the show with the batting lineup. We're going to have to hold that for another night. But Max Kepler is going to be, I think, I picture Kepler batting 7th in this lineup, honestly. If you're asking me, I think he bats 7th. And I'm not even doing lefty-righty anymore. Are we really going to try to pretend that that's still something that we're actually going to try to attempt to do with this lineup? Because it doesn't work with this lineup because it's misconstructed. So I am not even going to bother with the lefty-righty anymore. It's just who I think is the best available talent to put in that position. I got Kepler batting 7th in the MattyB lineup in 2025. I don't think he projects higher, and he could project lower depending on how he's hitting. So, but there you go, Max Kepler, who we're hitching our wagon to, part of the new breed of Phillies player in 2025. God be with him, and more importantly, God be with us as we get through the season. Kepler had decent a few years back. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said, if this was the 2019 version of Kepler or the 2018 version of Kepler, Barbara, I'd be a lot more, excited than the 2025 version, especially coming off of an injury. Yeah, and we will be getting those Phillies shows going for you here soon, Barbara. We can't wait for them either. If you look outside my window right now, there's about 7 feet of snow, and I'm really getting tired of it. So we cannot wait to start the Fightins final, because that means we're one step closer to summer, which means we're one step closer to football season, which means we're one step closer to autumn, which means we're one step closer to Christmas. That's how I run my life. But there you go. Our of the night segments, Massimino Rizzo and Max Kepler were our players of the night. And that now takes me to the that little fun exercise we've been doing over the last few nights, talking my all-time Flyers roster. Just to remind everybody, a couple of nights ago, I debuted my number one line, who I think, if I was putting together a Flyers team of players throughout the whole history of the team, this would be my number one line. And this also happens to be an actual line. These players actually played with each other throughout their time with the Flyers. The LCB line, Barber, Clark, and Leach. This was an actual line. This also happens to be my all-time number one line. It just happened to work out that way. My number two line, which we talked about last night, 2 of the 3 actually played with each other, whereas Giroux did not. But Leclerc, Lindros, and Giroux would be my number 2, which leads me now to my number 3 lineup of all time. And here we go. Drum roll, please. And there it is. That's right. Brian Propp, McLeish, and Mark Recchi. That would be my number 3 lineup in all of Flyers history. This is the group that I would talk about, a wave after wave after wave of scoring. You're going to have it with these 3 lines. Brian Propp, growing up, was my all-time favorite player. I became a left-handed hockey player because of Brian Propp. I used to keep a little scrapbook of all his newspaper clippings. Yeah, I was like that growing up. I had the Propp jersey. I got his autograph at the Flyers Wives Fight for Lives Carnival. Everything I could do about Brian Propp, I did. Matter of fact, he was one of my first, if not my first interview ever as a podcaster. Way back in 2020, he agreed to come on and do a show for me. And I remember that very vividly. It's floating around somewhere out there. You probably could look for it. So Brian Propp, my favorite hockey player growing up, in 790 games played with the Flyers, 369 goals, 480 assists, 849 points. 11 seasons with the Flyers, also had stops in Boston, Minnesota with the North Stars, and Hartford throughout his career. The Gafal, a consummate goal scorer with the Flyers throughout his career. And he was on many different lines, too. I mean, Kerr, Poulin, they moved him around. I think he might have actually played with Recchi at one point with the Flyers, but he was very interchangeable. He just kept going. And was a goal scorer, a potent goal scorer for the Flyers. Rick McLeish, 737 games played, 322 goals, 363 assists, 12 seasons with the Flyers, also with Hartford, Pittsburgh, and Detroit, and then he came back to the Flyers at the very end of his career. McLeish passed away of multiple issues in 2016 in Philly. He was, again, I mean, if I have a line with Rick McLeish as my center, my three centers right now are Barber, Lindros, and McLeish. I mean, am I ever not going to win a Stanley Cup? I mean, how can I fail with this? In my right winger, on my third line is Mark Recchi, 580 games played with multiple stops here in Philadelphia, 222 goals, 395 assists, 617 points. Also played for Pittsburgh, Montreal, Tampa, and Boston. 10 seasons overall with the Flyers, and was also part of the greatest trade in Flyers history when he was traded to Montreal for Eric Linder, or for John LeClair. So Recchi has made his impressions all over the Flyers, and more specifically on the ice as he, again, man, can you imagine these three lines if this was reality? If I could actually put these three lines out on the ice, all three of these lines of these players in their prime, man, I shudder to think what I would do to the NHL. And I still have another line and the defense to go. So we're making our way through this, but there you have it. The third line of my all-time Flyers line: Propp, McLeish, and Recchi. And let the good times roll, baby. Let the good times roll. LCB line. Yep. That was my first line. Yep. And then God bless McLeish. Absolutely. Absolutely. Taken from us too early, Barbara, as they always are. So there you have it. There's my Flyers all-time line, number 3. And we were going to actually put a pause to this little experiment until probably after I return from my trip. I'm not going to have time, I think, to put together some of that stuff down south. If I do, I will. But right now, I'm probably going to put a pause with line 3. We'll get back to line 4 in the spring. We probably won't because of the baseball season, but I will make a note to get back to it. I was hoping to get it finished before I took off, or wait until maybe when I got back to start it, but I couldn't wait anymore. I was impatient. I'm sorry. So we're going to put a pause, though, with the line 4, the defense, and the goalies. All right, that's going to take us to our final part of the night.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
Yep, it's our card review segment. This is that's how we wrap up just about every show, and this is the time of the night where we take one of my sports cards and we have fun with it. We talk about it, we introduce it, we talk all different kinds of value that the card might have, and just have fun. Again, my favorite part of the night. I'm a big-time sports card collector, have a lot of different irons in the fire when it comes to sports cards. Might actually be picking up a job in the business when later on in the spring. So we'll see how that all works out. But tonight we're staying in baseball. We've been in baseball all week long, and we're going to stay there to wrap up the week. And we're going to go back to the 87 Topps collection, which, how many times have I got to say it? Very iconic, probably the most popular set of cards in the history of Topps. And let's do it. And a pitcher who used to give me fits and I used to hate, but I respected all at the same time, Mr. Dwight Gooden. Dwight before he was Doc Gooden, 87 tops Mets card. What can I say about Dwight Gooden that really you don't really know, that no one doesn't know at this point? One of the more revolutionary type pitchers of his day, changed the game of baseball. You know, he came in out of nowhere and was a just reinvented the sport, reinvented the position, reinvented the Mets. I mean, he pretty much took the Mets and took them on his shoulders. Was one of the big reasons why they won the 86 World Series, and just a Hall of Fame like career. He is not in Cooperstown, which is interesting. It might be because some of the controversy that followed him later on, but 194 and 112 overall record, 3.51 ERA, 2,293 strikeouts, mostly for the Mets. Of course, he also played for the Yankees, Indians, Astros, Devil Rays. You don't remember that. He actually played with Tampa there at the end, and then he went back to the Yankees as well in 2000 to wrap up his career. 84 to 2000 was his career. He was a 4-time All-Star throughout his career, 84, 86, and 88. 2-time World Series champion, 86 with the Mets and 2000 with the Yankees. An NL Cy Young Award winner in 85, Triple Crown winner in 85, NL Rookie of the Year in 84, Silver Slugger Award pitcher in 92. God, let's bring back the pitcher, man. Let's bring him back to bat. Was the MLB leader in wins in 85, ERA leader in 85, 2-time strikeout leader in 84 and 86, or 84 and 85, sorry, pitched a no-hitter on May 14th, 1996, just one no-hitter in his career. His number 15 or 16 is retired by the Mets, and he is a member of the Mets Hall of Fame, but not Cooperstown. And again, I wonder if it's because some of the controversy that dogged him later on in his career. It got a little controversial there at the end, with the drug use and whatever. But Dwight Gooden, like him or not, like him or lump him, was a game changer in the mid-'80s when it came to pitching, and was certainly a game changer for the New York Mets. And there it is, his 87 tops card. So Barbara says he missed the Mets parade because he wasn't. Yeah, I get you. Jeez, Barbara, I was trying to kind of step around all that. Barbara's like, nope. We're going to talk about it. Yep, he missed the Mets parade because he was in a crack house and never got blamed like Strawberry did. Yeah, I don't know. I think he got his. Strawberry, Strawberry took it to a different level. They both were messed up, right? I mean, two immensely talented baseball players, two immensely revolutionary type baseball players, changed the fortunes of the New York Mets, and then obviously had so many off the field problems that it hurts. It hurts me. It really does. I grew up not idolizing Dwight Gooden or Strawberry. I didn't idolize them, but I looked up to them. I was 11 years old in 1984 when he broke into the league. So it wasn't like I was idolizing him, but he was a bigger than life type figure. And then to find out, all the stuff that he got into a little bit later on, yeah, it's a little demoralizing. For me, I'm sure it was for him too. But there you go, the 87 Dwight Gooden card, and here it is in its physical form. This card, if you got a clean one, like I have one here, this is pretty good, centered, cut well, nice sharp corners, nice sharp edges. Not many issues on the front of the card. I think it's a pretty clean version of the 87 tops. And again, it's hard to find a clean version of anything 87 tops because of all the cutting problems. It's a little closer there. This card can go anywhere between, I've seen it listed at $200. I've seen it listed at $10. This is truly a seller's card, or a buyer's card, I should say. It's truly a card that somebody is going to value because of whatever reason, because of the player, the year, the uniform, whatever. Truly a buyer's card. So this card, if you were trying to sell it on any kind of, like eBay or, place like that, just kind of gauge it, man. Put a high value on it and just let it see what it does, and then incrementally lower it down until you get to the sweet spot. But I think you'd be surprised because this is one of those buyer's cards. People want these cards because of what Strawberry represents, or Strawberry. Now you got me talking about Strawberry. Gooden represented back in that time. So there you have it. 87 Dwight Gooden. Barbara says she watched a couple of good documentaries on two of them. Yeah, they were polarizing figures that had very troubled lives. Absolutely, Barbara. And they were stinking Mets, both of them. And then Gooden becomes a Yankee. You're like, God, man. Talk about like double dose. But all right. Well, that takes us to the end. I want to thank JP Zapata for coming on earlier. He spent about a half hour with me. We talked about, we went very quickly through the top three. We went 3 for 3 tonight. We didn't do 5 for 5 like he's used to doing. We did 3 for 3, which is where kind of my wheelhouse is, right? Because I'm done with the Sixers until they fire a lot of people and trade a lot of people. But we did a 3 for 3 with him. We talked about the hiring of Kevin Padulu, the new offensive coordinator for the Eagles. We went over our of the night segments, our spotlight players, our draft spotlight, prospect, all that. We did what we had to do. We did our card review and all. We went over our Flyers all-time lineup, our number 3 line for the Flyers. All those great fun things tonight. And that takes us to the end of not only the episode, but of our broadcast week. Yeah, I know it's Wednesday. I understand. But JP, the soccer guy, yes, from PHLY, formerly of PHLY. He was on earlier, Barbara. Go ahead and check it out on YouTube once we go off the air. We are not going to be back tomorrow night. I will not be back till Sunday. I am on the road early tomorrow morning, and I will not arrive. I will be on the road all day. So we're not going to do a show tomorrow night. We will return on Sunday, though, from our new digs in Alabama, where I'll be staying temporarily for the next at least month. But we will be coming at you from there, and we will continue on with the show. But no show tomorrow. And we will be leaving this location for a little while. So it's going to be a little bit more rudimentary. You're not going to get all the bells and whistles that you get here because I'm leaving base and I'm moving off to a outpost, so to speak. So you're going to have to kind of just deal with me and not all the pretty graphics and pictures, unless I can get Al to make that stuff for me while I boss him around from the baseball field. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. But that's not going to mean that's going to change our programming. Don't forget, Saturday we are back with the Clear the Ice. Sal, Mike, and Sal have you Saturday, Tuesday, and Thursday. That's our next 3 games for the Clear the Ice program and all the other great programming. Again, I'll be back on Sunday. Sal will be back on Monday with his wraparound program. You'll also be able to catch him on the Flyers, Clear the Ice, all the great things that we do on the program. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you for coming along for the ride this week. Glad I caught a little bit of the show at least. No, Barbara, I'm glad you did too. You were a big part of it. So thank you. We had a fun week, short week, but we talked about a lot. We got a lot off our chest. Call out the important. Yeah. Tell MattyB sent you. Again, I am not going to feel bad about that. I am not. He's not going to make me feel bad. He's tried to. He's not going to do it, and neither are the people. I didn't start the Emporium. He did. When he came on the Fightins final, and I was driving home from work one night, and he had the final. It was right after the Mets series in London. And he went on this like 20-minute diatribe about why the Phillies struggled in London because of not sleeping in their own beds, or, they missed their mommies, and, they had to wear shower shoes, and their eating schedules and the time zones. I lost it, man. I almost got in an accident on the way home that night because I was so like, I immediately came up with the concept of the Excuse Emporium on the rest of the ride. So I put it into place. I think I had the show the next night. So don't blame me. All right. I am just answering to the will of the people and giving the people what they want. You got to talk to Al, man. He should not have gone down that road. Why are you going to wave meat in front of the dog? I just don't understand why anybody would do that. But no, Al takes it all. It's all meant to be in fun. But yes, if you're in the need for some Philadelphia sports excuses, if you just cannot deal with the reality that is the Philadelphia sports landscape, go ahead and check out Al, or pay Al a visit down there at the Al's Excuse Emporium, serving the Delaware Valley. Let me put it up. I got the graphic here. Let's put it up for him. Let's give Al a little love tonight. And I'll do the commercial. Where is it? Are you? Yeah, there it is. That's right. Big Al's Excuse Emporium, serving all your Philadelphia sports excuse needs since the summer of 2024. You know, tell Al, MattyB. So tell them MattyB sent you. I don't even know what that building is. It looks like a mall. It's like a closed down mall. But there you go. There's Big Al's Excuse Emporium, in business since 2024. So tell them MattyB sent you, and they will take care of you. It looks so real because it's a real building. Thank you, Barbara. That was my graphic design work, by the way. I put it together in like 2 minutes. I thought it was, I had to go. I got the, you get inspired and you get motivated. You got to put it together fast. And I was able to find the headshot and the mall. And I was like, and it all worked. So it worked out. But anyway, that's going to do it for me tonight. I want to thank everybody for a great week, for all those that contributed, all that checked in, all that you that commented along, Barbara, Steve, all the other, Freddie, Al, all everybody who was along for the ride this week. We had a great week. We had our Flyers midseason check-in show last night, which was fun. We're back at it. JP Zapata tonight on the program was amazing. I want to thank him once again for coming on and tell him that he is welcome anytime he wants to return. And maybe we do some work together in the future. We'll see. And everybody else out there that wants to, that's part of it. So please like and subscribe and share along with everybody. It's a Wrap Sports Network needs your support, needs your help. So we will talk again Sunday from Alabama. That's right. God be with me there. So I'm heading down south, folks. And I can't wait. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. So we'll talk again on Sunday. You guys have a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow.